My name is Arman Vakili, and you and I are going to go through the constitutional amendments together. I did a series already on the Constitution, and you can find the link to that somewhere on here. And if you haven't read through the Constitution, I would recommend you go through it. It's a very enlightening experience. And the reason that we're doing this mainly is because if you're a citizen in the States or a resident, and you kind of want to know what you can do and you can't do, what the rules and regulations of the United States are. That's basically what the Constitution and the amendments are. And the second reason, which in my opinion is the more important reason, is for us to know as a people, so for you and I to know as the people that we actually have the power. The power is to the people. And as we go through the amendments and you go through everything, you'll kind of come to that conclusion yourself as well. And the reason why this is important is because the media, mass media, wants to make us believe that the power is actually in the hands of a select few. And they demonize these people by, saying the rich people are bad or the government officials are bad, whatever side you're on doesn't really matter, right? They do these things because they want our eyeballs, because it's very fun for us to watch these kinds of things and we get distracted. And through the process, we also forget that we actually have the power. It's not these people that have the power. These people are at our service, right? The reason why a government official is there is to help decide what's best for the people, ideally. And it's like business people become successful and wealthy because they are of service to the people. And so for us to understand that the power is with us is very, very important. And then it begs the question, okay, well, what is my power, right? Like, what are my rights? What can I do? And that is why we're going into the amendments together. So the second amendment of the U.S. Constitution is the right to bear arms. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, what does this mean? Since it's necessary for the security of a free state, so a free state being either the United States or each individual state within the United States. So the security of a free state needs, it's a necessity of the security of that free state, to have a well-regulated militia, right? So since that's necessary, the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, okay? This is very important to understand. So first of all, let's make sure that we understand the actual sentence in front of us, right? So a well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state. Thus, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay. So since the people have the right to bear arms, so there's two versions of this, right? There's two opposites of the spectrum right now, what's happening in the United States. There's states like Texas that pretty much everybody in Texas is strapped and they take this right very, very seriously, right? And as a state, they are very protective of this right because they understand how the gray areas can affect the rights of the people. And really quickly, you can all of a sudden lose a right. And they're very protective of this particular one. And there are other states, for example, California, like Governor Newsom, and what he's trying to do with either the prevention of this right or, removal of it, or maybe kind of adding a few layers of barriers of entry for people to have to go through. And I'm for that. I think it's, if you had a government contracted psychiatrist that was legitimate, that was actually interviewing these people before they were given their licenses, and the cost of that came out of the pocket of the person applying for the gun license, then that way you would be able to more navigate and tell whether or not the person applying for this license is a sociopath. Because the perfect sociopath can pass an exam with a computer. They can pass the exam through the paper. They know exactly what kind of question, like they know what you want them to say. And so it's much easier, or not easier, but I would say it's more effective for a psychiatrist to sit down in front of this person and be like, oh, there are certain things that I'm reading in between the lines, certain tonalities, certain body languages that I feel like this person should not get approved for this gun license. And that cost, the cost of that should come out of the pocket of the person applying for that license. Now, that will make it so that the people in the neighborhood who are actually sane, who should have arms just in case something goes down and the neighborhood needs to be protected, that happens. Because in the same state, different part of California, but in California, there's a section of California where they're really, really pushing for this defund the police thing, and they did. And then all of a sudden, crime broke out, and the entire city got demolished almost. And now they're pushing back to fund the police again, because in the same breath that they're saying defund the police, they're also saying, yeah, also take the guns away from the citizens, take the guns away from the people. And so you're leaving us with really not much protection. And so as the people, knowing what our rights and our powers are, it's like, I'm just looking at this logically. Okay, so you don't want me to have my own gun, but you also don't want there to be enough police around my neighborhood or in my city. So what is happening? Like, do you guys, is there something? Because I'm paranoid, okay? I don't know. I've seen too many movies. It's like, you can't not be paranoid in most situations where it's like, this just kind of seems sketch a little bit. There's a few red flags that are going up here. And so if that is indeed the case, then something's got to give, right? So it's like, either you let us protect ourselves if you're gonna defund the police, or fund the police and still let us protect ourselves, but have like these higher barrier of entries for people to get their gun. I feel even the higher barrier of entry should just be applied either way. And in order for people to get guns, they should go through different types of tests at the very least, or something more effective than what's going on right now. Okay? So that I feel like is probably a decent argument to make. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But to take the right away completely, I don't know if that's sane. I don't know if that makes sense. So, but feel free to debate, right? Feel free to argue with me. I would very much like to see everybody's point on this and make a real point. Don't start talking smack just because you want to be a troll or whatever. Like, make a real point as to why you think this should or should not be taken away, because I think it's a very, very important amendment. I mean, it's part of the Bill of Rights. It's the very next amendment. It's like the second, the one right after the first one, right? So it's saying you're allowed to gather free speech and do all these things. You're allowed to say everything you want to say, but at the same time, you're allowed to be strapped just in case if you said what you wanted to say, somebody's going to come and try to get you. You should be able to protect yourself. Or I mean, I don't know, that I'm joking, but not really. I don't know. Anyways, we're going to just leave off with this and we're going to move on to the Third Amendment.